potential clients, volunteers, and stakeholders. While there are a growing number of social media platforms available, this training will primarily focus on Facebook and Twitter. If you use other forms of social media, most of the tips can be applied to other platforms. Before we get started and dive into the training, I'd like to share a few quick housekeeping reminders. This webinar is being recorded and will be available within 1 week. So if you miss anything or want to tune into something again, you can check for the recording. And make sure that you can hear us clearly. If you're not hearing any sound right now, hopefully you do see the slides moving and you realize the presentation has started. Please make sure you've entered your PIN to hear the audio. If you have any questions at any time, you can type them into the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, and feel free to type your questions as you think of them. And if you need additional assistance, please raise your hand. So now I will turn it over to Jenny Wong.
Hello. Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. So today I will be taking you through 10 steps that go through the process of starting a social media account. As Roxy said, we'll be focusing on Facebook and Twitter today because those two platforms should be sufficient for your goals. So we have a lot to get through, so let's just get started. So step 1 is to decide what your goals are. This will, of course, differ depending on what your organization is doing right now. We have come up with a few ideas to get you started. So maybe you are looking to increase the number of VITA clients you serve at your site. Social media can be a great way to recruit clients. You can also use social media to look out for volunteers if you have enough clients but you don't have enough people helping. You can also use social media to fundraise for your organization or reach more EITC recipients. Finally, you can use social media to increase the number of supporters of your organization or get media coverage for your organization's accomplishments. Once you've decided what your goals are, it's a good idea to find out who your audience is. So there's 2 different ways to think about your social media audience. You have your intended audience, which depends on what your goals are, and then you have the audience that already is following your social media account if you have already started. And we'll be talking about both kinds of audiences today. So let's give an example. So say your goal was to reach more EITC recipients. Well, when you're thinking about this target audience of recipients, EITC recipients, you want to, before you start, figure out what those people look like. So you want to research the demographics. A good way to start is to look at the Brookings Institution, and there's a hyperlink down there for you to go. If you go on that web page, you'll be able to enter in your zip code or look at your state, and then that'll give you a ton of demographic information and help you better target your social media. This is the national profile for an EIP recipient, but your data will be catered to your zip code. And what happens is once you enter in that information, it'll download as a Excel spreadsheet. Once you've figured out what your ideal demographic is, you can use Facebook ads to target your outreach. So basically, you can either promote your page as a whole, that's what we're doing here, or you can promote a post, a specific post. So if you look here, when you're boosting your Facebook page, what happens is your Facebook page shows up in more people's home pages. And you can specify your audience by location. This can be what city you want to look at. We have here United States, but you can change that. You can specify interest, you can specify age, and you can specify gender. And then in terms of billing, you just decide how much you want to pay per day and then how long you want the ad to run for. So Facebook will also give you an idea of what the boosted ad will look like. And so this is an example here. If you wanted to boost a post, that's also an option, and you can also control for the same audience there. All right. So in addition to thinking about what your intended audience is, you can also look at the audience you already have following your social media account. So this is an example of what Facebook Insights looks like. We just started our Facebook page, so this isn't ours. I found this on the internet. But basically, you can go into Facebook Insights and look at the age and gender and location and language of the people who are already following your Facebook account so that you can better target them. Unfortunately, Facebook Insights has changed a little bit since this picture. You can no longer look at the other likes that people on your Facebook have liked. So just pretend that's not there. But otherwise, it's pretty similar. Twitter has a really similar function called Twitter Audience Insights. And you can go there and look at what the interests of your followers are, the gender and age that they are, and all sorts of helpful data points. Okay, so once you've thought about your goals and who you're trying to target in your social media, it's a good idea to decide what social media platforms to join. So it can be tempting before you begin to just create an account with every single social media platform. This is not a good idea because social media is a pretty huge time commitment. And before you make an account, you want to make sure that you know how much time it's going to take and you have dedicated staff members who can commit to that time. So make sure before you join social media sites, know what your capacity is. Since you already know what your intended audience is, figure out which social media sites your audience likes to be on. So we have Facebook, for example, which is the largest social media platform with over 1 billion active users a month. Almost everyone is on Facebook, so it tends to be a good place to start off with your social media. It's a good place for connecting to EITC recipients and clients, and it can be a good place to have back and forth conversation. Oh, and by the way, these are infographics from Social Sprout that you can find online and get to know more about the demographics using every platform. These are the demographic info for Twitter. So Twitter has a lot of users, but it only has about 215 million active users. Most of the people on Twitter are not actually logging in every day. So one of the really good things about Twitter is that it has really good SEO. So let me explain. If you post information on Facebook and then do a Google search for the post that you just made, you probably won't be able to find it from Google. If you do that same search for a tweet that you wrote, you'll be able to find it through a Google search. So it's a more public-facing platform. And if you want your information to be easily searchable for the public, like say you want to post Vita hours, or maybe you want to have weather updates in case of cancellations, that's a good thing to have on Twitter rather than Facebook. Twitter is also a great news source, and it's great for sharing information. And if there are key leaders in your field that you want to connect with, Twitter can be a good place to connect with them. So it's unlikely that someone on Facebook, say, will see that you've tagged them. Well, it's not impossible, but it's less likely. Whereas on Twitter, if you tweet at someone, it's more likely they'll see it. So it can be a good place to network if you're looking for partners. I know that was a question someone had, so I wanted to address that. And so another, as I mentioned before, social media is a big time commitment. So it's good to know how much time it's good to know how much time to expect to take on something. So the reason Facebook is only 3 hours a week is because you don't have to post on there as much. Twitter is going to be about a 5-hour commitment a week. Blogging is about 5 to 10 hours a week. So the reason it takes so long is because you're not just posting different posts. You really have to think about what kind of information you want to share. You might have to create different images to share, and you might do some writing. So you got to make sure that you're dedicating time to all of those activities. Okay, so you have your goals, you have your audience, and you've joined a social media site. Well, now that you're on the website, you have to make sure to post consistently. And a good idea is to have a lot of pre-made content ready to go before you even start your social media account so that you're not overwhelmed when you begin. So how often should you post? So Facebook, it's a good idea to post 3 to 5 times a week at a minimum and up to 2 times a day. Twitter, you can post a little more, 2 to 4 times a day is good. And blog at least once a week. So I know blogging is a bigger commitment, so it can be hard to blog more than that. So the reason you want to post on Twitter more than Facebook is because Twitter is a faster moving site. And when you look at a Twitter newsfeed, it shows a moment of time. Those tweets that you see are tweets that just happened. And then in maybe an hour or 2 hours when you check again, it'll be whole different tweets. Whereas on Facebook, posts linger for a little longer. So you might see posts from a few hours back. So you don't have to post as many times. And in general, on Facebook and Twitter, you don't want to post too much more than what the guidelines we have. Otherwise, people will start to ignore you, and it kind of looks like spam. So those are good outlines. For special occasions, say you're live tweeting an event, obviously you would go over those amounts, but these are good guidelines for most days. So this is where most of the meat of the presentation is. It's good to create and curate great content. So what does that mean? So when you're on social media accounts, about 80% of the posts you share should be from other sources, and about 20% of the posts should be original content. So what do we mean by other sources? So other sources could be news articles you've seen online. It could be a picture you find interesting, anything that you didn't write yourself. So if someone else wrote a cool blog and you share it, that's another source. 20% of your own posts, that's say if you create your own graphic or you write your own blog post or you share your own event. So it's good to share other content, both because you want your social media page to curate good information and also because it's hard writing all of your own content. If you're trying to share 100% of things that you created yourself, that's going to be a lot of work for you. So there's, of course, different ways to find information to share. It's a good idea to keep track of the topics that may be trending at any given point. And then also to keep track of other pages that you think your followers would be interested in. Keep tabs on what they're posting and try to imitate that content or get ideas from there. And if you see something interesting, go ahead and share it. So here are some content ideas for your social media account. And we're going to show you examples of each in the next few slides. But basically, social media can be a great place to share weekly or monthly statistics on how many VITA clients your organization has served. This is a great way to get people to understand, get a concrete understanding of the work that your organization is doing. And it can get people excited, especially if you're working towards the goal. Perhaps your goal is to serve 900 people at a VITA site. Well, if you announce that goal and they can see you working towards it every week, that can be an exciting journey to take your social media followers on. Another piece of content that people just love are top 10 lists. So think the list that you see on BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed and Upworthy are actually great sites to look at if you want to see what's usually trending on social media and to get an idea of the kind of tone that people like to read through. Stories from people who have benefited from tax credits can be a really good way to put a human face on the work you're doing. Volunteer appreciation and thank yous are also very welcome and will make people who help your organization feel really special. You can also use social media to put out calls for action, say for donations or volunteers or maybe a space to host VITA. And you should also definitely be posting pictures, and we'll go back to the images in a little bit. So I'm going to quickly go through a few of these kinds of content just so you see what they look like. So here we have one of those top 10 lists. This is on our blog, so feel free to reblog this or share our post on Facebook. This is an example of a volunteer thank you. So thanks to our amazing volunteers, your tireless advocacy helped save key provisions of #WorkingFamilyCredits. And then we have two examples of events that people could join you with. Okay, so then we have a couple do's and don'ts for your social media content. So do be creative while also staying true to your own voice and your own brand. Do inform your followers by providing great articles, and then make sure to keep it short with your posts. So these are a couple examples of posts from the National Women's Law Center. For the most part, they post a lot of informative articles, but we just wanted to show you that it's okay to also kind of have fun with it and create a post that may not be as relevant to your organization, but know that people will enjoy. So on the left, we have, hands down, one of our favorite moments from the State of the Union. What was yours? And it's a picture of every adorable Obama and Ruth Bader Ginsburg embrace through the years. And then on the right, we have a post on America Ferrera and Eva Longoria calling out racism. So not entirely related, but it's okay to have fun with your posts. So we also have an example of what you should not be doing on social media. So do not use too many hashtags in posts. I want to give a little bit of background on hashtags. So hashtags were created on Twitter because Twitter didn't have a search function. So the only way you could search for a topic was to put a hashtag in it. Now that Twitter is searchable, you actually don't need hashtags at all. So only put a hashtag if there's a relevant topic you know that is trending and you know people are talking about. For example, today the trending hashtags are hashtag Penguin Awareness Day and hashtag National Cheese Lovers Day. These aren't related to your organization, but keep an eye out on trending topics, and if you see something that is, you can use a hashtag with it. Otherwise, if you're using like hashtag so excited, hashtag love this, people aren't searching for those hashtags and they're not relevant, so you don't really need them. You should probably use no more than 2 hashtags in any one post. Do not use abbreviations. It makes it really hard to read. And make sure your posts are short. So, for example, Twitter has a character limit of 140 characters, but you should really be aiming to keep your tweets to 100 characters, to 120 at most. And do not ever post a statistic or fact without linking to the source. So this is not a tweet that we sent out because it's terrible. This is an example of what you should not be doing on Twitter. As you can see, it's really difficult to read and it looks like spam because of all of the hashtags. So here we have changed it to a do. It's much clearer now. There's one hashtag, and then we have a link there in the tweet. Wanted to make a quick note on Bitly. So if you look at the tweet there, you see that we have a Bitly/link. That's not a real link, but Bitly is a wonderful tool. If you make an account, you can put in any URL and shorten it to a really quick URL. That way it doesn't take up space in your tweet. If you have an account, you can also see how many people are clicking through to your link. You can use Bitly without an account, but it's a good idea to make one. Okay. So our next step is to make sure to make it visual. So if you have your own social media account, either Facebook, Twitter, or what have you, you know what it looks like when you're scrolling through your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed and you see nothing but text. And then the thing that stands out the most is going to be the picture. So if you want people to really see what you're posting about, make sure you include a picture. So Oxfam International does wonderful graphics. I highly recommend going on their Twitter to take a look. But here are 2 tweets that they sent out. So the first tweet: since 2010, the wealth of the richest 62 people has risen by $500 billion to $1.76 trillion. Hashtag even it up. This is a wonderfully worded tweet also, but it's a little bit boring, and it's kind of hard to visualize what those numbers mean without a picture. Well, you can see once they include a graphic, it makes it so much easier to digest. And you can actually fit in more information by including a graphic element to it. So if you ever have a statistic and you can make a quick graphic, it's a great idea to do that. And it really stands out more when people are scrolling through their news feeds. We have another example here from the Human Rights Campaign. So Montana Governor Bullock signs executive order protecting LGBT state employees. Well, that's very exciting, but you don't get too excited from the text alone. But once you have that huge picture, you can get so much more from the tweet, and it really stands out. So definitely, anytime you can include a picture, it's a great idea to do so. And so previously with Oxfam, you had pictures illustrating statistics. Now you can also make graphics for exciting news, and then graphics with quotes. Those are both really popular. These are 2 Planned Parenthood graphics we found online that are also just kind of fun. It's more exciting than just having the text would be. Okay, so another problem that a lot of organizations and nonprofits have is, instead of using social media as a conversation, people tend to use it as an announcement board for your own organization. That's not what social media is about. If it was just an announcement board, you could still be sending out emails. The great thing about social media is that your followers and the people interested in your organization can respond to what you're doing. So be responsive. When someone posts something and you find it interesting or they have a question, just respond to them. It's easy. Do ask questions, especially if you're interested in how you can improve your organization. You can just ask. And as I said before, don't just use social media to make announcements. And remember to mix it up. So I have an example. So we can't show you a lot of Taco Bell's tweets in our presentation, but I highly recommend going to their Twitter and seeing how they interact with their followers. It's very entertaining. So on the left, we have Mike, who says, at Taco Bell, I was wondering, is a taco a sandwich? Taco Bell says, at Michael, no, Michael, it's a taco. It's, it's not, it's not super informative. It's not, but it makes people feel like you're not just a machine. There's a person behind the social media, and that's what we want to remind everyone of. So David Walsh says, contemplating putting all my savings in Taco Bell stock and selling it back tomorrow for a hefty profit. Taco Bell says, you're a businessman. We like that about you, David. So again, just kind of fun. It doesn't always have to be very formal interactions. Just have a little fun with it and respond to people when when they talk to you. Our next point is to use calendars. So especially if you have many people working on your social media and a lot of platforms in use, it can be easy to forget what's going on. So it's a great idea to have an editorial calendar. So this is just a quick calendar I made in Outlook, but you can use any platform. You could use Outlook, you could use an Excel spreadsheet, you could use Gmail, it doesn't matter. But basically, you want to put the items that you'll be doing, and then if you have many people working on it, it could be a good idea to color code them based on person. So, for example, if you're planning out a picture to put on Facebook later in the day, you could put that as a task on your calendar. Or say you're planning on writing and editing and then publishing a blog. Well, those are each steps that you could make time for in the calendar as well. And then it's always a good idea to have a calendar of special events and holidays. And we'll get into that on the next slide. So although it may seem that many holidays are not relevant to your organization, you might be surprised with the ways you can connect it. So holidays can be a great time to celebrate different leaders, even if they don't work directly with what you do. So on the left, we have a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. That we posted on MLK Day. And then on the right, this is a picture I created when I worked for ACS, and it's just a fun Valentine's Day post. We included this one because Valentine's Day, it doesn't seem like it could be connected, but you can make it kind of fun for people. So the one on the right says, show your love for the Constitution this Valentine's Day by joining or renewing your ACS membership. And then it has different policy that ACS works on. We also have another couple examples from Gary Community Investments. So again, you're taking Thanksgiving and you're taking the holidays and making them work for what you do. So the one on the left says, keep the season of thanks and giving alive. Support #EarlyEd and #childcare. So this is for the Colorado's Child Care Contribution Tax Credit. So really fun. You wouldn't think Thanksgiving was related to tax credits, but they made it work. And then on the right, you have think outside of the gift box. Contribute creatively to CO, Colorado, I guess. #childcare and #EarlyEd providers. So again, great way to celebrate different holidays. People love it, and it's just really fun. So our next point is to make sure you track your results. In the beginning, you came up with goals. Well, it's important to make sure that you're keeping on track of those goals. So the metrics that you're going to track kind of depend on what your goals are. So I'm going to take a look at what the goals we created were. So say your goal was to increase the number of VITA clients that you're serving. Well, in this case, you would want to keep track of those numbers, of course. And then when they're coming in to get their taxes done, ask them where they heard about VITA. And if they say they heard about it through social media, great, then you have another number. And then you can see what proportion or just how many people are coming in because of social media. As a general rule, it's good to keep track of the number of followers you have in general, and then it's good to keep track of the most popular posts that you've done throughout the month to see what's working and what's not. And in addition to that, make sure that you're not just growing in the number of followers. You're also making sure that the people who follow you are really engaged with what you're doing. And finally, our last step is to take chances and have fun. So not every kind of post is going to resonate with everyone's audience. And that's something that we can't tell you what to do. You're just going to have to try out different kinds of posts and see what sticks with people. It's a good idea to just mix it up, and then you're just going to figure out what works and what doesn't. If it doesn't work, fine. It's going to get buried in different posts anyway. So ultimately, it'll be okay. So we had a couple fun posts here that we quite enjoyed. And the one on the left says, "Went broke, found out I have $6,000 in my big piggy bank." So that's a pretty fun way to celebrate savings. And then on the right, we have a post that celebrates springtime in Florida. So sometimes it doesn't have to be all about tax credits and outreach. You can also have a little fun with it. All right, so those are the 10 steps we have provided, and please let me know if you have any questions through the chat box.
Great, thank you, Jenny. So yes, please type in any questions that you have about any of the information that was covered or any questions you have that were not covered. I will go ahead and read some of the questions that have come in. One question is related to the goals. There was an example of using social media to fundraise. How would you do that?
Okay, so there's different ways to do that. So I'm just going to flip to this. So the image we have on the right for Valentine's Day is actually a fundraising image, although it may not seem like it. So when you renew your membership, you actually have to pay for it. So the holidays can be a really good time to use social media to fundraise. And then let me think. Yeah, I think a really good way is to create fun images that bring the importance of your organization home. So, for example, we mentioned that you can have posts that share a story of a family who's been helped by your organization. Well, in that picture, you can have the text you have for the picture could be read about Ellen's story and how she was helped when she came into our tax filing site. If you want to support this kind of work, please go to, and then have your website there to direct people to your website and your page. So another important tip is just on your website, make sure you have really obvious big buttons that indicate how they can fundraise. So every time you promote your website on your social media, you're also promoting the fundraising. Yeah, those are a few different ways you can do that. If you want to know more tips about that, you can send us an email, and I'll come up with more ideas for you.
Okay, so our next question is about using tools such as Hootsuite. By using Hootsuite, does the time allocated towards Facebook and Twitter decrease?
So I have used Hootsuite in the past, and it can decrease, but it still takes a lot of time to think through your posts and come up with the come up with the language you want to use. So for me personally, it didn't decrease that much, but you may find your experiences are different. And I think because of how interactive social media should be, I think in general, I think for me personally, I don't find that those apps are that helpful, because I feel like it's better to push tweets and Facebook posts out organically, and that's not something you can get from using an app like that. So yeah, I don't think it makes a huge difference, but it could for you.
Okay, we have a comment about hashtags and how they can be relevant and can be used. You should still use hashtags to create specific searches and to create hashtag columns in Hootsuite or TweetDeck to keep track of conversation around specific topics. It's useful during Twitter storms, Twitter chats, etc. Hashtags are still very relevant for some specific purposes.
Yes, great point. Completely agree with that. My point was more that when you use too many, it looks like spam, but used selectively, it can be a great tool.
Okay, so our next question is, what tracking components are already in Facebook and Twitter?
So most of those tracking components, a lot of them are already in your Facebook and Twitter already. So Facebook will tell you how many followers you've gained each week, what percentage that has gone up. It'll tell you what your most popular posts are and how many people your posts have reached. And then it'll tell you, yeah, so most of those basic components are already there. I'm not as familiar with what's already in Facebook or in Twitter, because we used another program to do that. But yeah, definitely a lot of these metrics are already available, and you often don't have to use another source.
Okay, so now we have a question, a request. Can you send us VITA promos and images which are approved to post? We would enjoy the fun images, and this presentation was very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, so I unfortunately okay. So we actually just started our Facebook page and our blog, so we will be sharing a lot of blog posts that are catered towards VITA clients and EITC recipients. So please, please go on our Facebook. If you like the page, you'll see a lot of these blog posts, and you should feel free to share them and even reblog them if you want. We'll also, we've started already, but we're creating different graphics that you can use as well. So we know it can be a challenge to create all of that yourself. So our Facebook and our blog will be a great resource for that. And if you are interested in learning more about creating visuals, we're having another webinar tomorrow at the same time that's going to teach you how to create graphics for social media.
And that was another question. How do you create great graphics and quick graphics? So please tune in to tomorrow's webinar to learn how to make graphics in a very simple way. And if you have a limited budget or no budget at all, Jenny will share how to use free resources and tools that are available. So we have more questions. What is the best way to announce an upcoming event while still using Facebook and Twitter as a conversation as opposed to an announcement?
So when you're posting an event, you can, so first of all, it is okay to use Facebook and Twitter as announcements. You just don't want it to be the only kind of post that people are seeing, if that makes sense. It's, you can have announcements, but just spread it throughout other kinds of posts. And then if you do want to make it a little more interactive, if you're having an event, you can ask a question. So maybe your event is for EITC Awareness Day, which is coming up. So in your post, you could say, please join us this Saturday, January 30th, for our EITC Awareness Day event featuring whoever is featuring. And then at the end of the post, you could ask, what activities are you looking forward to? Something to get people excited and so that they know that you care what they think as well.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording along with the slides to you, and that is also the case for the webinar tomorrow. So if you aren't able to make it, please register anyway, and you can review it when you are free.
So I did notice that someone previously had asked how to post pictures on Facebook. I want to quickly show you here. If you just go onto your page, so if you go onto your Facebook page, and this is ours, if you go where it says write something, you can just click on photo or video, and that'll let you upload a photo or video right there.
Okay, next question. Do the 80-20 guidelines for sharing content vary depending on your audience? Would it be the same if you're really trying to reach volunteers or versus clients versus supporters?
So that's a general guideline. I think that's something that you'll have to test out with your own audience and figure out. I think the guideline does hold true for those groups, but you just have to mix it up a little bit and see what kind of posts your followers are more interested in seeing.
Great. I think that covers all of our questions that have been submitted. We'll have one last call for questions. And while we're giving people some time for the questions, can you recap all of the steps?
Yes, of course. So I don't have it in one place. So first, when you're starting, figure out what your goals are. Step 2 is to figure out who your audience is, and this will depend a lot on who's already following you on social media and also what your goals are. Once you've decided those two things, decide which social media sites to join, and remember, you don't want to join every single site and spread yourself too thin. You want to make sure you have the capacity to really dedicate yourself to each site that you are joining. Next, you want to make sure that you're posting consistently. If you don't post on a regular basis, people will start to forget about your social media presence. After that, we have create and curate great content. And this is where the 80-20 rule comes from. 80% should be shared from other sources, 20% should be original content. And then we came up with some content ideas that you can look through in a PowerPoint. And then we also have some do's and don'ts. So do, be yourself, get creative, inform your followers, and keep it short. Do not use too many hashtags, though one or two can be very useful. Don't use abbreviations, and don't make posts too long. Next, make sure to make it visual. Again, almost everything you post on Facebook and Twitter should have a visual component if possible. And remember to make sure that you're having a conversation and it's not a one-way situation. Use calendars to ensure that you stay on top of the various sites. And make sure to track your results so that you know if you're meeting your goals. And finally, take chances and have fun with it. because it's just social media and you have to figure out what works. So have fun with it, play around, try different things, and you'll find something that clicks with people.
Thank you. Okay, well, we don't have any more questions. So you all have links to stay connected with us. As Jenny mentioned, we have our blog and Facebook page link along with the general website link. And if you're not on our email list, you can sign up for the Tax Credit Outreach News. And if you do think of any other questions, or if you have any requests, if you're interested in getting some feedback on something you're working on, then please do feel free to email us. Again, we hope to see you at the webinar tomorrow to learn how to create your own graphics simply and without a huge budget. Thanks again for your participation, and you can look out for the recording and slides within